Hello, where are we at? We're up at this one up here. We're over here. There we go, we're right here. Hey everybody, it's Greg BrockCast. This is the BrockCast. We are live tonight from Life Restored Church, Pastor Alex Fleming and his family's home. We are sitting here right now in the middle of the homeless shelter. And what's happening here is Pastor Fleming and his family, his team, him and his wife and all his supporters have brought the homeless community into the room, and they're sleeping right now, getting ready for bed here in a little bit, but they got their sleeping bags out. They've been fed. Pastor Fleming is his personal life mission. He's always involved in the homeless initiative here. 400 Arbors right next door to Haven for Hope, a $6 to $10 million homeless facility, and Pastor Fleming, a Life Restored Church. 400 Arbor Place, live right now, are knocking it cold every evening, literally tonight, knocking the cold out, getting homeless people in for safety and shelter. We're going to talk about that a little bit later and visit with Pastor Fleming. Tonight we have a special guest as well. I've been working hard to get, oh my goodness, Raymond Ford coming in the house as well. Raymond is running for constable in Precinct 2, so we're going to have a conversation with him tonight. And then we're going to talk about different things happening at City Hall here at the city, whatever's going on at the county, the state, the local, you name it. We're going to have those discussions tonight. It's a bit of a different setup for us. There's a lot of activity running around in the building right now, so bear with us. We're going to have a good time, but more importantly, we're going to talk about the issues that matter most to you and the people of San Antonio. That's what's most important to me. That's what's most important to everybody, right? That we have the facts and the information to make the right decisions. And don't forget, the BrockCast is a platform for you. It's your voice. You can stream it right now live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And you can like it and share it, start a watch party, and push out the information. Because I always say this every week. No matter what, it doesn't matter how you decide, what your process is, what your vote is, your political party, how you pay your taxes, whatever it is. You having all the information, the full information, the facts to make a decision is the number one most important thing you can do. And then let the votes fall where they may, right? You make your choices, the public makes their choices, but everybody deserves the facts and the answers. And what's interesting, there's a good, real kind of a dichotomy tonight to what we're trying to do on the BrockCast versus what Ron Nirenberg's trying to do at the city. Tonight, with News 4, Ron Nirenberg's conducting a homelessness town hall, but he's doing it at the Tobin Center. The Tobin Center. We're doing it in the heart of the issue itself, right? And we're going to bring the people trying to solve those problems working on the streets, trying to solve them, heart to heart, person to person, and sometimes as simple as a shower or a cup of coffee is changing lives. And we're going to bring that to you tonight with Pastor Alex Fleming here in about 10 or 15 minutes. And we're going to have those tough conversations. And then we're going to talk about pets and some other things and have some fun and wrap up as we always do. But tonight, the platform's for you. You got any questions? Put them in the comments section. Ask them and let's get after it. But tonight,
wants to help later on.
Oh, and if somebody wants to help later on, great point. Saulo's here tonight. We've got Tyler back. Charlie's on the technology as well, and we're going to do the best we can to bring you as much information in a very short period of time. 400 Arbor Place, Life Restored Church. If you want to offer any help or assistance, Pastor Fleming and his team will take whatever you can offer. Reach out and let's make it happen. We'll get to him in about 10 or 15 minutes. But for right now, I promised I would try to get Raymond Ford. He's a constable. He is running for the Precinct 2 constable position. He's currently working in Precinct 2, but he's got his name on the ballot for a future opportunity here. The March primary election starts on March 3rd, but early voting is February 18th, I think, through the 28th. Raymond is running. He's on the Democratic ticket. And he is running for constable, Precinct 2. And we all know about that. We'll get to that in a second. We got good stuff always comes up in Precinct 2 over the last 6 months. But we're not going to hold any of that against Raymond because tonight's just getting to know him, how it means to work in that department, what a constable is, and all types of questions about his campaign. So, my friend Raymond, it is good to have you here this evening. By the way, Raymond is joining us. When I asked him, hey, would you mind coming down and talking to us at the homeless shelter at the church? Jumped all over it. You brought some food tonight. Thank you for that. So we appreciate your servant's heart this evening and being a part of helping out the community and Pastor Fleming. So
that's every little bit that helps.
I like that, every little bit. So straight up, give us the elevator pitch, the big information on who you are, where you come from, how long you've been working in the constable's office, and what, talk family a little bit about you and your background.
Well, my name's Raymond Ford. Never been a politician in my life. This is the first time for me. I've lived in Bexar County my entire life. I have 25 years of law enforcement experience, 9 years with the sheriff's office, and 16 years in the constable's office. Like Greg said, I worked for Precinct 2 for 15 years. However, right now I'm over at Precinct 4 because that previous constable that we're not going to mention kind of made my life a little bit challenging over there.
All right.
So
it's okay. It's the BrockCast. Look, we tell people all the time, Raymond, you've got to let the guard down.
Yeah.
and tell us exactly what you think. So you're in Precinct 4, because I'll ask you that question in a minute. But don't worry about it. We all know about Precinct 2. All right, so you're running to fix that stuff, right?
Yeah, we're safe then. Okay, I'm in my safe place, I guess.
I always tell people, you're going to get triggered, or you got a snowflake mentality. The BrockCast may not be for you, but so feel free to unleash. It's not the law enforcement officer's normal routine to let the guard down, but tonight I'm going to make you. So talk to me. So how many years again in working as a constable in the constable's office?
At the constable's office, 16 years.
16 years. And you're a lifelong San Antonio resident?
Lifelong San Antonio resident. Been married for 20 years.
Married for 20 years. That right there is worthy of holding the highest office in the land. I'll take that.
I'm sure my daughter's watching right now. Hello, Allison.
Daughter's how old?
14 years old.
All right, well, fantastic.
Going on 21, it seems like.
And I want to just say something that I got to recognize your wife, Mimi. So this is a little bit personal for me because your wife is a nurse, correct?
Correct.
And your wife was my wife's nurse when she went through major surgery about 6 or 7 years ago. My wife was incredibly sick, lost, and my wife and I always talk about this. She lost her colon and went through a very difficult time period just trying to survive and live. It went on for many years. But Mimi Ford, Raymond's wife, we met through that relationship and that connection. And if Mimi's watching, we talk about Mimi all the time. We love your wife. We like Raymond. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
we love
like
you. But you're always involved and active in the community, and you're doing things. And this is your service as well. And you're running for office. But to Mimi out there and Allison, thank you. You mean the world, of course, to my wife. And if she could comment and be here, she would. But Luke's at karate, and we're downtown tonight taking care of business. So thank you for your wife. She's fantastic, and your family, and you are always in our prayers for that. Now, all right, brother, running for office, it isn't easy. I've done it.
Easy.
It can be tough. I've won some and I've lost some. So you got in this race. Talk to us. Tell us why you're running for office. And on day one when you win, I want you to tell us what the top 2 or 3 things are you're going to do.
Well, I guess the deciding factor for me to run was, of course, that previous constable. I've always been happy being the person behind the person in the spotlight, but there comes a time when you can't watch actions and behaviors that you worked for so long to make a good community relation department just tear down the community. And I think it was the event with Huizar where she stopped her on the on Bandera Road and subjected her almost to a body cavity search. And if it wasn't for
that was in the news.
That was heavily in the news.
Yeah.
And I think that was the day that I said, you know what, that's gone too far, and I have to step up and do something.
You never ran for office before.
Never ran for office before.
I'll tell you, man, you're running right for the top job in the constable's office. Look, we all know how that constable office was ran, so I'll just recap it so you don't have to. But because we enjoy talking about it. But there was obviously mistreatment, some alleged mistreatment, FBI investigations allegedly of different issues at the constable's office, misuse and appropriation of funds allegedly. Some things is reported as simple as taking training classes in Austin but not going to the training classes, right? So the constable got into it with the media, and then she accidentally announced her candidacy for Bexar County Sheriff and was forced to resign. And then she did a resign to run. Now, of all things, she's running against Javier Salazar for Bexar County Sheriff. I'm telling you right now, that is a popcorn event right there. You better stock up. Vela versus Salazar for the Democratic nomination on the Bexar County Sheriff. We're going to love that one. That's going to be fantastic and great. But tough problems and issues, right? Some leadership driven. So tell me, job day one on that job, what are you going to do to restore some trust and get back to the basics of what a constable does? And feel free to start with what a constable duties that are actually performed. I don't think people even know that.
I think that's a good question to start off with. Most definitely here in Bexar County, the constable's office is responsible for the service of civil process issued from the JP court and other courts. Constable's office also handles criminal warrants issued out of those courts and takes care of the JP court. Provides bailiff services and security for the office. That is the traditional aspect of things. But because constables are constitutional officers, they're also allowed to do other things like traffic enforcement, criminal investigations, and such. My goal is to rebuild that trust with the community, and where I want to see the officers, I want to see the officers back in the neighborhoods. I don't want to see them just doing traffic. I want to see them patrolling neighborhoods, meeting the community, addressing the community needs. And that is simple as for instance, porch pirates. We're seeing it in the news. It's increasing daily. Yes, they increased the penalty, but that's not going to stop until we actually catch them.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. So the only way, as I tell you, I think, and a lot of people at Bexar County right now are coming after the constable's office in general. People are questioning whether or not constables are even needed. The department itself, it's an $8 to $9 million annual budgetary spend. And what happens is when you have a bad elected leadership like that, people begin to question all of it, right? So then it becomes, do we even need the job? So, difficult times, and when you've lost the trust of the community, the best place to go is back to the community. So I think when you're talking about getting back into neighborhoods and visiting with people, that stuff makes total sense, because you've got to earn the trust back of, well, not just the voter, but from a public safety perspective, the things you're doing as constables, if you broaden those into things that help neighborhoods, I think you're going to be right on point with that. So, all right, so you're going to go in, you talk about neighborhood-driven stuff. What else is jumping out at you over the last couple of years about the constable's office that you may want to get after? I mean, there's 8 people in the race or something like that. A lot of people running.
There's 8 people in the race.
Yeah.
Well, my background at the constable's office is everything from deputy constable, working the street every day. In fact, here in this neighborhood where we're currently sitting, this is Precinct 2.
Life Restored Church.
Life Restored Church,
is in Precinct 2, so it's a perfect, that's why I was thinking, man, it'd be great to get you down here tonight to visit.
Right down the street, we used to do writ of possessions. That means returning property from the renter to the landlord. And sometimes that is a very, how do I say this, emotional thing. You're removing somebody from where they call their house.
Right.
And there's no simple answer. And as you can see behind us, I mean, this is the outcome sometimes. And that's not what the constable's office really wants to do, but it's mandated by us, by the courts. So trying to find a balance for that is also important. And that's where I really want the constable's office to start reaching out and being part of these community churches, being part of a solution to the problems. And it's a big problem, and it's, I'm not the smartest tool in the box, but there are
none
people
of us on the BrockCast are the smartest tools in the shed. I put these on. I actually wear these to look smart. They're completely useless. They're not real glasses. No, I'm kidding. They're readers. But so you've been doing the job for a long time. I like the platform, community first, getting back in the engagement. But you said something about faith in church too. You alluded to partnering with churches, and I think the constable's office is not huge, right? So part of that work is working with other organizations and doing things like what's happening here at Life Restored Church. Homelessness is a public safety issue as well. It's one of the number one things you hear about as a city council member in neighborhoods is the homeless issues across the city. It's happening all across the city. What's been your experience? You came here tonight and helped out. I'm sure you're seeing some things tonight you've seen as a law enforcement officer. But where tonight's show is going to circle around homelessness after you step aside. Tell us what you think some of the answers are, some of the things you've seen from a homelessness perspective you'd like to help out with.
It's a very challenging question. And you know what? There's professors and PhDs trying to solve that problem. And really what it's going to take is community involvement beyond that of just the church. It's going to take the community involvement of the everyday citizen to say, hey, you know what? Let's try to help these people and let's try to make something happen with this. As far as law enforcement, what I'd really want to see is officers, because not everybody wants that, be taken into custody and being forced to do things. No one wants to be forced. But you know what? It does help that if a law enforcement officer can recognize when there is that need, that need to, maybe they need some mental health issue. Maybe it's just a simple thing as, hey, a good hot meal and a place to take get a shower, like here.
It's perfect, yeah. You'd be surprised, and I like what you said that, because the homelessness issue can circle around many different aspects. So when you said doctors, PhDs, everybody's trying to solve that, because there's too many things. I mean, there's such a wide range of issues that cause the homelessness epidemic across our country. And some cities and states are worse than others, and San Antonio has its issues. But we're right next to Haven for Hope, and they're obviously overtaxed. They can't complete the work because there's so much other work, and Life Restored's fulfilling a lot of that, showers and hot meals and a place to sleep. So when I see these things moving around, and it's the answers aren't 1, 2, or 3, they're like literally spread everywhere. That's where something like the constable's office begins to work with the neighborhoods and communities and does doing the things that the community is looking for. Because when I was a council member, we get it all the time, man, and I'd have to work with SAPD, but we got it all the time, which was there's homeless people underneath the bridge over here. They're walking near my neighborhood. So there's a public safety component to it. And the law enforcement officers' hands are really tied oftentimes. But if they can spot, to your point, some of the issues, mental health crises, drug addiction, those types of things, you can intervene.
And also to be a point of contact. Because, like I said, I've lived in Precinct 2 for 15 plus years now. And there's a lot of people, they want to help. They want to do the good things. They just don't know where to reach out to. So they volunteer with their churches. And then there's other people that, I've seen it at Precinct 2. People come in and say, hey, how do I donate food, to the homeless shelter? And I said, well, let's take you down to the homeless shelter and get that going,
Well, community policing, and you don't have to be a SAPD. There's the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, the Constable's Office. There's other organizations involved in the community policing aspect, and I think you brought those points home real well. So real quick, let's make sure everybody knows website address.
FordForConstable.com.
FordForConstable.com. Facebook. Ford for Constable.
It's also FordForConstable.com.
It's Ford for Constable on the website, on the Facebook page as well. And you can reach out and find out more information, and I'm sure you'll respond back to people out there.
By all means, yes.
Election date, voting starts February 18th. Raymond Ford's running in the Democratic primary. Again, we bring everybody on the broadcast, Democrats, Republicans, Independents. Doesn't make a difference who you are. You have a welcome spot with us, and I'm thankful you came down and visited us in this environment. Because I think, look, the number one thing public safety people, law enforcement people, the public wants to see community involvement. And when you set up front, that's what you want to bring back, that and trust. I think those are two very important things. So final words, closing words before we kick you out of here, man, and put you on the street. What do you got?
Please, Raymond Ford for Precinct 2 Constable's Office. And I want to thank you for your time tonight.
We appreciate you, brother, and we appreciate you coming out and helping us this evening. All right, man, thank you. All right, we got to track down Pastor Fleming. Alex. Hey, what is this guy doing? He's doing his job. I mean, what is he's killing me? All right, he's coming on over. So, look, big shout out to Raymond Ford. 8 people in the constable's race, the Democratic primary. The primary start March 3rd. 2020 is going to be a huge year for politics. I keep saying this every show. It's going to be the greatest year for political work that you've ever seen. People run all over the country, got presidential all the way down to constables, state representatives, and these elections are going to change the face and look of San Antonio, Bexar County, the state, and the nation, of course. Big ballot items all across, so stay in touch. Understand what's happening, like and share this and push it on. But as we promised, we came tonight, so thank you, Raymond, but as promised, we came tonight here to Life Restored Church, 400 Arbor. We're right next to Haven for Hope. Couple things I want to point out, and I mentioned this at the top. We're doing a conversation tonight on homelessness, and we're going to talk to Pastor Fleming and get real about it. And the mayor is doing a town hall at the Tobin Center, right? So he's over in a lap of luxury at the Tobin Center. That's a complete disconnect. They're on television. They're over there at the Tobin Center. God knows how much it costs to keep those lights on over there. Probably enough to house and feed the entire Life Restored Church for a month. But they're over there, and we said, no, you know what, we're going to come and talk to this. And there's people in the background. There's people trying to keep control of their life right behind us. There's sleeping bags, they're on the floors, they're eating hot meals, drinking coffee, doing what they can to survive a bitterly cold evening. And tonight we said we want to talk to Pastor Fleming. He invited us in, and we're going to have a hard conversation about homelessness and what's happened with Life Restored Church. So I'm proud again, as always, to be here tonight with Pastor Alex Fleming. Thank you, brother. It's good to see you. Yes, now you're on the hot seat. So real quick, though, I mean, before, can you pan around? And I want you to see what Life Restored's up to tonight. So it's going to be freezing. It was freezing last night. Life Restored is bringing people into their shelter. How many square feet you got here?
Like maybe 2,000 something.
2,000 square. Hey, man, we're not laughing at you, brother. 2,000 square feet. Well, maybe a little bit, because you need more square footage.
Yes.
He needs more square footage. But take a look at it. Sleeping bags. Where do sleeping bags come from? I didn't even.
Man, they come from a whole host of people from Crossroads Church.
Crossroads Church. Gotta stay close to the mic, because you're on the mic on this one.
All right, yeah. Crossroads Church, different churches, different nonprofits, just a lot of people that have seen what we've been doing during the winter throughout the years. Yeah. And so, yeah, they just
So you fed people tonight. Life Restored does showers, hot meals. It's an everyday job for them.
Yeah.
Actually, not a job. I wouldn't even use that word. It's an everyday service, right? It's a service mentality. It's a servant's heart that's keep Life Restored moving and going every day. So give us, and how many people you think you got here tonight? 50?
Now about 40. Yeah,
About 40 or 50, 40, 45 people
Yeah.
here this evening. Well, I'll tell a story about District 6 and another person I knew, homeless person, here in a little bit. But tell us your mission, Pastor Fleming, and what brought you to things like tonight, and what you want people to know, right? Because I wanted people to see the real deal, not
Yeah.
the Tobin Center.
Yeah.
I don't want them to see elected officials in suits at the Tobin Center. I want them to see what it's like in real life, and this is what it's like.
Yeah.
So give us the full rundown on what brought you here this evening, just your short.
So, I was doing the morning announcements one time at church. I heard that somebody froze to death. The Holy Spirit said, you're going to take in the homeless tonight and provide them with shelter. Never did it. Scared out of my mind. Didn't know how to do it. But I just knew more and more what Paul meant. When he's a slave to Christ, I got no option in that. We did it. I did the take your shirt off challenge. Went outside, 32 degrees. Went Facebook Live. And I said, man, if you're a pastor and you can't take your shirt off for 30 seconds out here, imagine the homeless that got to live out here all night. So either help us or open up your own church to house the homeless. And that's what started this whole thing.
And it's you and your wife?
Yes.
Both of you? Is this your full-time?
Yeah.
So you dedicated your entire
Yes.
life
I mean,
to this.
quit everything, lived by faith for a long, still living by faith, but more living by faith at the very beginning, you know what I mean? And just trusting God, but he would supply financially and the whole nine. So,
I've heard you say in the past that the revival or the future of our community revolves around the homeless issues. Explain that. I mean, it was a very interesting point you made the other day that is those of us who have the least in our community, right? When we talk about followers of Christ, I was having a conversation with Salo the other day, and we were talking about when Jesus returns, right?
Yeah.
Where's he going to be? Like, imagine
yeah.
that, right? Imagine when Jesus returns, and he's going to go someplace, somewhere in our world, right? Is he going to go where the big time churches are? Is he going to go where the elected officials are, where the mayor lives? Is he going to be hanging out with those people, or is he going to be where it's needed most? Those of us with the least in our community. So we were talking about it. We said, he's going to be where it matters most. Those who have the least, right?
Yes.
So help us understand and dig in a little bit on what it means to say that the homeless issue is going to define us and change us as a community going forward.
Well, so, if you look at every revival and great awakening in America, there were seasons, there were times. I believe that the next big awakening, that next spiritual revival and awakening is going to happen amongst the homeless people. Because like you said, that's where Jesus was all the time, with them the most. There's so many scriptures that prove this. It was the apostolic mandate that was given to Paul when he was getting sent out to take care of the poor. So time and time again, this is part of Christianity 101, but it's like just bizarro land where it's not so much, we have little outreach programs for the poor, and it's kind of a marginalized thing. With Christ, it wasn't the marginalized. This was the key focus of his ministry. And I think that Jesus said, if my people hear my voice, they're going to be where I'm at. And he said, if you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. And so, man, that's it. We just want to be where God is at now.
That's a great,
so
brother.
we'll be where he's at when he comes again.
And you had to give up all your possessions to walk with him back in the day.
Yes.
Right? So all your possessions. And you had to cast those aside.
Yeah.
To spend that time, to get on that walk in a mission. You did that, taking the shirt off your back. So 40 people here tonight, you're feeding them, you're clothing them. I'm imagining it's you and your wife built this, and some days it was everything you had going into it.
Oh, yeah.
So let's start with right off the top. What are some things that you think when you're bringing these men and women in here? What are some initial quick things you think people can do to help? Period. Right? Like, I want people to know the things that you need, or just homeless and generous. What can you do?
So
39 degrees right now?
39 degrees
it's
right
39 degrees. So we brought some coats and some other things, and I will show them in a second. But what do you think are the top 3, 4, 5 things that jumps right out at you?
The biggest thing, of course, is always going to be finances. You know what I mean? You cannot get away from that. It takes money to run this because our place is so small. Taking in a lot of stuff is kind of more of a burden if we get a lot of big stuff coming in. So buying as needed really helps for us. Volunteers, man, having consistent manpower. Imagine this every night. Imagine this every night with the manpower to do it. I got something bigger and better, and I don't know if this falls in that question, but imagine the John Tobin Center during the winter being used, being led by the faith community to house 1,000 or 800 homeless for whatever. Imagine that. So that's what we need. Whoever you are, the connection to do that, we need you. We need you. Imagine that. Tobin Center filled up with homeless during the winter season, run and led by the church, who's not talking about it right now, who is doing it. The good thing is this upscales. It's a model to scale. So what we're doing here, 40 can be 400 if we got the right connections, the right people, and the right resources.
So Pastor Fleming just took the BrockCast and made it the Flemcast. Actually, I don't know about Flemcast. No. We can't call it the Flem. It's not the Flemcast. That didn't work.
Yeah.
That didn't work. We'll come up with something else. That sounds like a sinus infection. But I don't know where that went there for a second. But wow, brother. So you're speaking to it, and that's a great point, right? Like, you're over there in that environment, in that facility, talking about homelessness. And I'll tell you another point that upsets people, that rises awareness of what the city's doing in the homeless initiative. I mean, we're putting millions to Haven for Hope, but we spent $130,000. The city council did. This is a famous, already a most ridiculous decision to create a homeless strategic plan. The city of San Antonio did. But they hired a company from San Francisco to do it, right? As if there's not local talent, local people that could have created that plan. Like, I don't know, Life Restore, Pastor Fleming, Pastor Charles Flowers. You can go right down the list of people who have experience at Sam Ministries. There's all kinds of people that could have built that strategic plan. So there's a breakdown between partnerships here, right? Something's broken when City Hall doesn't think we have the expertise to put together at least the strategic plan for homelessness. So the city went to San Francisco. Don't even get me started on San Francisco and what they're doing with their homeless community. While they think deregulating and removing the laws and all that, it's causing so many more problems for San Francisco that their homeless population is skyrocketing, right? And then what it's doing is it's taking the community and it's pitting them against the homeless community, right? Because that's what's happening. Because it's exploding unregulated and no focus from the San Francisco leadership, that now the community's turning on the homeless community. The homeless community is being further vilified, right, in San Francisco, because of the lack of direction. And then we go and hire a firm from San Francisco to come to San Antonio. Just stupid. So tell me about what you think. All right, Matt, wave that magic wand one more time, right? You're sitting there, you have the answers, you have the ability to put together a strategic plan. Just a couple of thoughts or ideas on where you would go with it. Some of those partnership things you think are needed in the city, because you've run into some problems with the city before.
Yeah, I mean, that 135, right? The 135,000, whatever it was, the CCR that was drafted, right? Waiving fees, reducing. And they were like, we don't got, the mayor's office contacted me and they said, we're sorry, we just don't have enough money for that. And a month later, now they went and spent the 135.
All right, hold on a second here. Let's dig into that for a second. So Pastor Fleming's church tried to expand, make some changes. They ran into zoning issues. Code compliance fined them, had a couple $1,000s in fines. We came back and helped. We talked a lot about it. You beat it at court. You beat back the fines and the fees, but the city came after you on it. Your city council person never spoke to you. And then you actually went so far as, and we worked with you, we helped you, to draft a council resolution to say if you're a church or a nonprofit organization working in the homeless area, you can have reduced fees for building, permitting, and all these other things. Because every dollar you keep goes to the service, goes to a pie, a piece of cake, or whatever it is, right, on a birthday. It goes to a cup of coffee, it goes to a hot meal, it goes to a backpack, a blanket, you name it. But you're saying that the mayor's office contacted you and said they don't have the funding?
Yeah, they don't have the funding. No other district contacted us, and when the mayor did, they said, we don't have the funding, we're sorry. Somebody has to pay for that, and we can't pay for that. That's what they said. Absolutely
embarrassing when they turn around and spend. Look, this is another stupid thing about these leadership decisions. I'm sorry, this is ridiculous, and it really it pisses me off.
Yeah, sure.
We're more concerned about bike lanes on Broadway, $6 million worth of bike lanes, trying to cram a cyclist down Broadway, lower Broadway. We're more concerned about that foolishness than investing in things like fee reductions and opportunities to pay for our homeless community, right? To help them not. Somebody I saw a note that said, well, don't give them a handout, give them a hand up. They want the hand up.
Yeah.
Right? So it becomes this decision, and the city is choosing, the mayor himself is choosing to focus more on bike lanes than on bodies, human beings, people. So what would you do, man? What would you do? Let's say the mayor opened up that checkbook for you. Okay, right, but let's say he did, right? What would you do? Where would you put it for your shop first?
I mean, the bigger place, man. Bottom like that John Tobin, we're talking about bigger place. More volunteers. Here's the key in the handout versus the hand up is that when you're giving a handout consistently, you're building trust, you're giving hope. That leads to them people picking up their own self. And so whatever it takes to keep that consistently all day, every night. Listen, if people got their life destroyed for whatever reason, it was an accumulation of years. It's not gonna get restored overnight. So one thing we would do is expand. Just expand, and
talk to me about real quick about cold weather. What you see when you're working with your homeless community, right? The people that come here. I'm curious. How many people? You mentioned somebody froze to death, and that's how you got involved. Well, coincidentally, when I was a District 6 councilman. We had a homeless gentleman fall asleep at a car wash across the street from my office. I mean, no more than 100 yards from my city council office, he fell asleep. And he didn't wake back up because it was the first cold snap a couple years ago. His name was Laddie. He fell asleep. He used to clean cars in a parking lot. He fell asleep, didn't wake back up. And, a Coke could have saved his life for all I know. It could have been anything, right? And nobody really knew his problem. His daughter lived in Florida, and that was it. But that was an awakening for me on this homeless initiative and how we can really engage these things in San Antonio. But talk about the cold, man. What do you see in nights like tonight? People need to see it because this is the reality. It's not Tobin Center reality. This is the reality that people need to put their eyes on. So talk to me about the cold and tough weather like this and the things you worry about for our homeless community.
Every time I'm in my house and I teach my daughter, let's thank God that we have a nice, warm house to stay in, because a lot of people don't. And that, man, even if you're out there, 10 minutes, you're gonna learn that the things we take for granted and the things that are so easy to give. All it takes is opening the door. This is easy to give. And so, man, and I got to speak to the faith community because, if with all the churches here that are in our city and the amount of homeless that there are, if we took in 3 and dedicated to getting 3 people's lives restored, homeless problem solved just like that. Now, I would say this concerning the winter, every nonprofit, every faith-based community, if we would team up just for the winter, for us, this is our primary focus. But I'm talking about, let's say just for the winter, we all took people in. Other churches and ministries are already starting to take in homeless during the cold. So a movement, I got to say this, a movement is starting. And if we can just say, hey, in the winter, we housed over 80% of the homeless people in San Antonio, it is a glimpse of what we can do further for a more sustainable solution to the homeless crisis. But we first gotta, for the winter, for us is like the launching pad. If we can just build up on that, and everybody's getting involved, everybody's opening the doors. We have training to train people how to open the doors, how to facilitate it, de-escalation, the whole 9. If our city faith-based community did that all together, it'll give us an insight to, wow, this worked for the winter. What about the next step and the next step and the next step?
I'm going to give you a couple things. So I've read a story in the New York Times about some key points. I Googled how do you survive in the freeze? How did a homeless person survive? And what brought them to that point, right? So these are, there's 9 points that were listed. I'm just going to briefly mention them. But it discusses what got them on the street. Some decision, like you said, doesn't matter, right? Something brought them to that point. You never sleep soundly. As the temperature drops and the night falls, Sometimes you're sleeping in stairwells or wherever you can. People will feed and clothe you. I think that was a very interesting point. People will, they will. In spite sometimes of the government's intervention to stop them, they will. Now, there are good ways to give. Don't get me wrong. There are good and productive ways to give money, but people will feed and clothe you. Still, you need to be charming. So doing so, and the guy talked about how the fact that when he was homeless, he'd been homeless 30 years, that he said, I had to still be charming to get in that stairwell. Like I couldn't be rude. I still kept my morals and my manners so he could find a place to sleep. You can make money from other people's garbage. That's what he said. He said that the simple things he was able to clean up and fix, to your point, with things we take for granted, that made him money. You can get, this was tough. He said you can get stuck in one place even when you don't have one. You can get stuck in one place even when you don't have one, meaning you don't have a place. And he was saying, I just got stuck in always going to the same shelter, the same time, the same place, same people. And he couldn't break it, for not just for a couple weeks, couldn't break it for years.
Wow.
You can be locked up without walls.
That's true on a lot
You
of
can be
levels.
locked up without walls. There's only so much the family can do to help you. And here's what you hold on to even without a bedroom. So the homeless person, he said he was for almost 30 years. He said he still held on to a measure of pride, a sense of propriety, self-worth. He still hung on to that, and a bit of hope. And that's what he clung to even 67, so on the street for almost 40 years.
Wow.
But those pieces, I think, are things that we see tonight with the folks who are behind us. And I tell people all day long, these are residents of San Antonio. These are voters. They're people. They're taxpayers. May not be paying the same tax as everybody else, but if they go purchase something, you're paying taxes.
Yeah.
And the services are just as, for me, it's deeper. It pisses me off more that we care more about people, no offense, coming into our country illegally than we do about the people here legally, the people here now. We spend more money worrying about, if certain people in this town put their same effort into the homeless community as they do into the undocumented community crossing the border, we'd solve that problem quickly.
Sure.
The amount of resources. And that's not to say that the undocumented person doesn't deserve dignity, but the dignity that's missing in the homeless community, I think. And that comes down to trust. Where does trust play a role here in your service and your mission?
Trust. Doing this 6 days a week builds trust, and that trust leads to hope. Man, the Bible says that faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. And so for us, love is the springboard that allows you to continue to love on people on a continual basis that breeds hope. Them looking past their dark, dire situation. Every day they're being bombarded with hope that leads to the faith, the action step of the hope that they now have, that the love of Christ first showed them. That's why, man, consistency leads to life transformation. Consistency builds trust. When you're blessing people 6 days a week, I don't want anything from you other than you to know that I want to see your life restored and better than it ever was. No strings attached. They're like, bro, let's do that. People, we don't have a set fixed program. We're starting that. We're ID recovery. Let's do this. This is the people that have gotten off the street so far. They've done it on, like I said, not a hand up. They've put themselves up because of the hope. Another thing we take for granted, hope, words of encouragement. So yeah, man, just words of, and not action, not just words, action.
So let's recap a little bit of this. Man, you just get, you're powerful on the message, man. I think the Holy Spirit's working through you. You can see it, you can feel it, and I've known you for a while now, man, and this is your passion. It's 30, Tyler, what's the temperature out? It's like 38 degrees outside. People aren't eating. I would wager to say, having been around the city and been in city council, there's not a bridge in this city there ain't somebody living under.
Yeah.
It's 31. It's 31 degrees right now. What are you doing? Now, this is the challenge, and this isn't easy stuff. And you've got to think about this. We're not, all due respect, city council, you've been elected by the people, you're the representatives. Then represent the people. All people. Don't do it at the Tobin Center, wearing your suits, talking about how tough it is for the homeless community. Come out in the community and find out about it, sit down and do the hard work to learn the things that need to happen. You got to get out from behind the desk to put yourself in the community to figure out why. 31 degrees, going to be freezing tonight. What can you do? That's the real question, right? Look, you can drop it off at any time of the day. It doesn't have to be Life Restore Church. You've got Catholic Charities. You've got the San Antonio Food Bank, Sam Ministries.
Church Under the Bridge.
Church Under the Bridge. You can drop off anything. Things that you think, Pastor Fleming mentioned earlier, it's the little things we take for granted. Take some of those take for granteds and drop them off.
Yeah,
you want to know, right, what you can do? Take your take for granteds. Go in that closet, step down that garage. Everybody has a junk drawer.
Yeah.
Everybody, you got something. Take a look at yourself and say, what can I do? Because it's only going to get worse weather-wise from here on out. It's never going to get better food-wise unless we contribute. The food bank's overtaxed and working hard, but we can do it there. You can do real generous giving in positive ways to affect the homeless issue. Or you can come down to Life Restored Church here at 400 Arbor Place, or you can hit any church in this community and say, I want to help. I have this. Will you take it? And they either will or they won't. Look, you got to also bring some respectful goods down.
Yeah,
right?
wash the stuff.
Don't bring stuff down like it's just a dumping ground for you because you don't want
Exactly.
to, you don't want it in your house anymore. So be respectful of the products you bring. But bring, right? And don't forget, I want to wrap up. And there's one more thing I want to say. We brought some coats down. This is a blessing. And these coats right here, we brought a bunch of these down tonight. They're big, thick winter coats. Reversible, so they'll also be able to take the liners out of them when it gets a little warmer. This is a thank you to SeaWorld. You want to know something crazy? When I was in the city council last year, we handed out a bunch of these. We were just keeping them in our trucks and cars, handing them out to homeless people when we found them and giving them out. And I thought I'd given them all away. And then I was cleaning out my office and I found 50. And I said, man, this is perfect. Like it was meant to be that I could bring the coats down. So those were from SeaWorld. And they held on in my office by accident because it was the end of the year last year when we were handing them out. And it wasn't really cold anymore, but we gave a lot of them away, but they were found at the last possible minute.
Wow, look at
and here we are tonight. We'll be able to hand them out to the folks who you see that necessary that need them. So that's just the beginning. But and these are brand new coats, but you can bring anything down, partner more or less, I think, with action, and that's where we need to be. So Pastor, as always, brother, we are proud of you. This is what I'm talking about. Ron Nuremberg, City Council, the 10 of you. You didn't need to go to San Francisco to spend $130,000 to find somebody to fix the problem. I found him for free at 300 Arbor Place next to Haven for Hope. Get a clue. Yeah. Figure it out. That's my Brockton loaded for tonight. I normally didn't do one tonight, but that's it right there. You didn't have to go somewhere else to get the answers to San Antonio's problems, City Council. That's a leadership breakdown. The answers are right next door to you. You just need to open your eyes and, more importantly, your heart. You're a breakdown every day you go outside our city to get the answers. The answers are here. The answers are in the faith community there. Life Restore Church. Pastor Fleming, brother,
BrockCast,
as always, man, we love you,
Yes,
and we're thankful for you. Thank you.
man. Thank you.
All right, brother. Okay, so I'm going to mention another piece too tonight because I promised as well to mention a few things about pets. You know what an interesting piece is, and I learned this in some of my work with the homeless community when we were out helping homeless folks get services to go to Haven for Hope. And sometimes we clean up the homeless encampments and do different things in District 6. What I learned was pets are a very important part of the homeless community. Like I met many homeless men that had a dog or an animal with them, a cat, and they would not leave that animal behind. So the city has actually, Haven for Hope has actually put together programs that help a homeless person bring their pet or animal with them. But it's a critical part. But more importantly tonight, what I wanted to mention was animals in danger in the cold. Do not forget. 311, call 311 if you hear an animal in distress. You'll hear them shivering, you'll hear them yelping, you'll hear sometimes silence. You'll know they're outside, they're pushing a bowl, they're knocking the door. We all know what the sound is of a dog trying to get in a door. They're beating it trying to make it in. So if you hear it, call 311. Now here's the problem for animal care services. They're entirely understaffed. Pets are family members. We've got two of them, Vito and Charlotte. The dogs are part of our family, right? So we have to be very careful when the weather drops and the temperature drops, protect them. So I've got some key points I want to talk to you about tonight. Dogs will hide in hoods, in automobiles and cars. Be very careful. Cats and animals will hide in there. Check regularly and wipe away salt after outdoor walks. And don't forget, antifreeze is a dog and pet killer. Be very careful. Be alert for signs of hypothermia from animals like shivering, whining, sluggish, or anxious behavior. Sweater weather, you can dress them up. Keep them indoors whenever possible. And this was a good one too, storm prep. Oftentimes when it gets really cold and we lose energy, or we know we're going to have problems getting out to the store, we think of our family, of course, obviously our children and family first, but we don't think about the pets and extra dog food or extra water and things for animals. So storm prep for animals as well, cozy beds, and limit car travel. Never leave your pet in a car, ever. So we have to be very careful with these items, and now more than ever, because look, this is sad, but it's a fact. Tens of thousands of calls go unanswered at Animal Care Service. They don't have the staffing to get it done, but thousands upon thousands of calls will get in. But in areas like this, sometimes they'll see 500 to 800 calls a night for animals in distress. Animal Care Services can't cover that. Right? They don't have enough staffing and manpower. That doesn't mean we can't work our way to get there and have responsible pet ownerships. The other thing I wanted to tell, ownership skills. The other thing I want to talk to you about is, and this is a fun one, this Thursday, obviously coming up here soon enough, is Thanksgiving. Be careful what you feed your dog. Here's another pet message. Thanksgiving food that will make your dog sick. Do we have that one right there? Got to talk about this one. Turkey skins and bones, turkey twine, garlic and onions, grapes and raisins, bread dough, corn on the cob, gravy and trimmings, and of course, chocolate. I wanted to talk tonight, though, about pet services and pet care. If you have, and Animal Care Services is doing a great job with limited resources. This is not a knock on them. What it is a knock on is we, as a city, and the priorities, right? We're concerning ourselves to death with no-kill shelters and all these other things and no-kill statistics. Newsflash for you, we're still killing pets. So we've got problems and priorities, and the staffing and the dollars that go towards that just simply aren't enough. But tonight, as it's freezing, think about your animal and pet. I know I will. We'll keep them warm. We'll do the best we can. But you need to think about them this evening. And you can donate just as well as you can donate to any other institution. You can donate blankets, old dog clothes, old beds that you aren't using anymore, things that are still usable and serviceable. Go to an animal shelter. Go to the Animal Defense League. Reach out to a spay and neuter shop. Find out if there's something you can do that you may have a pet, that you've either the pet is gone now, the pet, whatever the situation was, wherever your pet's not with you anymore. But if you have supplies and things are left behind, donate them. Animals across this city are in need. People love their pets, and sometimes they'll do what they can to feed them before they even feed themselves. But we don't want that. We want them safe and taken care of, especially in weather like tonight. If it gets to freezing, if you're cold, that's the rule of thumb. If you're freezing, your pet's freezing. I get they got the extra coat of hair. I understand that. But that's not the answer, right? Think about it. Do the right thing. Donate materials where you can, help them out. But also remember, call 311 and let's make sure people who are disrespecting and mistreating their pets are appropriately handled. So what do we got now, time-wise? Where do we have left? Well, we got it down to a few more minutes here. So just finished up pets and freezing weather. I've got a few things I want to talk to you about on deck at City Hall. So we're going to condense over the next couple weeks things that are happening from here on out at City Hall over the next couple weeks. This week at City Hall, we're going to see scooters. So 3 companies were chosen for scooters. They will be back up again this Wednesday for a discussion. The city's going to choose one of these vendors. If you remember, the scooters came in. They came out by the thousands, like 12,000. And then obviously people were getting hurt. They were getting in the way of people on sidewalks. They were causing problems. It was out of control. It looked ridiculous. I even saw scooters on 1604. Who in the hell is riding a scooter on 1604? But irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter. The bottom line is it got out of control. So the city council is going to choose one of those 3 scooter companies to take care of that particular contract going here on out. Edwards Aquifer land protection issues are popping up again. And pay attention to this one, because what we're going to see out of City Hall is they're going to start to mess with the taxation amounts in the sales tax. And I'm going to start to talk more about this. The city wants to take the tax dollars and invest them in other pet projects, things like the Green New Energy Deal they passed, the CAP, the Climate Action Adaptation Plan. They want to take some of that money, want to put it into transportation. But they're not going to stop spending their money. They're going to force the San Antonio River Authority and other organizations to raise your taxes somewhere else. Be prepared. City Hall is going to try to pull a fast one on you, and we're going to dig into it. We're not going to let it happen. We're going to do all we can to fight. the misuse of taxpayer resources and dollars into ridiculous transportation plans and Green New Deals that don't work. We're after it. We're going to keep an eye on it. We're also going to see this week a CCR, so a council resolution on gender pay equity at City Hall. That's going to be talked about at the governance this week. So how is the city paying men versus women? It's going to be an interesting conversation, something to watch. We can also talk about Councilman Pelaez has a council consideration request to start talking about community land trusts. This isn't a very exciting one, but what it does is, right, this is far-reaching because people develop homes in our community, and the number one conversation you hear is those homes are unaffordable, right? So the city believes they have to come in and change the development process to make the home more affordable, i.e. cheaper, right? So we have to figure out, okay, how are they making it cheaper? Where are those costs coming from? Is the government paying those costs or covering that bill? Is the taxpayer doing it? Is the developer? This discussion is going to go on for the next couple of years as the city determines how it's going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars into housing issues. So be prepared for that one as well. Also, the city council is going to be looking at interlocal agreements with school districts to determine whether or not they can lower development fees for school districts, right? So lower the cost so school districts can put more of their money towards education. But here's an interesting fact. They're only doing it with public schools. They're ignoring charter schools, faith-based churches, and other organizations like that. And just like we talked about, Pastor Fleming is trying to do things in his church, his nonprofit, from a development perspective, but the city came after him for it, right? They didn't reduce his fees. So where do you, as a city, determine who gets fee reductions and who doesn't? That's going to be a very important one. And then Broadway bike lanes are back, my man. I can't. Ron Nuremberg just simply does not know when to let go of the Broadway bike lane issue. He's going to do all he can to make sure his biking buddies are taken care of to the tune of millions of dollars to cram bike lanes down Broadway. I'm not saying bike lanes are safe anywhere in the city, right? We need more education, more signage, I get it. But what are the priorities of City Hall when we're sitting in a place like this tonight? People are struggling all across this city. People are potentially freezing to death out there, but we're concerned about somebody's bike ride down Lower Broadway around a pig stand. We got more important things to worry about. That's a lack of focus from City Hall, but bike lanes are back up again on the A session for a conversation and a vote. So let's stay on top of that one as well. And there we are with about most of my on-deck points. And every week from here on out, we're going to try to knock those in. But when we're on the road, it's a little difficult to do the graphics and everything because we're working in a Wi-Fi bandwidth and we're making sure we can get into things that matter most. Like Raymond Ford tonight, his conversations on his run for Precinct 2 Constable. We're thankful that Raymond came out. We talk a lot about elected officials. We need good people running for office. I don't give a damn who you are, where you come from, your background. If you care enough to put your name on a ballot, you got to get credit for that, and you got to work hard. We got to stop tearing people down. Let's hear their ideas about what they're going to do for our community, our city, our county, and our state. So Raymond Ford's running in the March 3rd Democratic primary. Voting starts February 18th. Be on the lookout. Constable Precinct 2 is like 8 or 9 people. There's a whole football team, I think, a basketball team running for that seat. So you got to pay attention to it and pick and choose the right person for the right role. Research, figure it out, and get to know it. Thank you to Raymond Ford, his wife Mimi as well. That's at Ford for Constable on Facebook and fordforconstable.com. And of course, Pastor Alex Fleming. We went there tonight talking about the homeless issues. Ron Nuremberg and News 4 at the Tobin Center doing God knows what over there, spending God knows what with no clue in their suits. We came out to Life Restored Church. They need your help. Donate, show up, have a servant's heart with it and see how you can help out. So huge, huge thank you to Pastor Fleming for all he does. Don't forget your pets. Wrap up with them tonight. Take care of them. Do the things to make sure when it freezes, they don't freeze. Their lives are at jeopardy in weather like this, and we need you to take care of your pets. Call 311 if there's a problem. And don't forget, big things happening at City Hall this week. Everything from bike lanes to community land trusts to Edwards Aquifer items to possible taxation increases. Let's stay after and make sure you have all the facts to make the right decisions. This was an interesting and different broadcast. We're going to try to do more on the road and less in the studio because what we want to bring you are really those hidden gems of things, people, organizations doing amazing work in our city. It's not enough, my friends, to say City Hall sucks. It's fun to say it. It could be funny, but it's not enough. You've got to have solutions. And oftentimes, as elected officials, having been one, the answers aren't in your head. And that's how our city council thinks. They have all the answers. I'm here to tell them from firsthand knowledge, no you don't. The answers are right in our community, oftentimes right next door to us, like Life Restored Church is. We have to get out there and make it happen. You can find all kinds of places to go help. Salo just brought up a good point. Go to your local church, reach out to the food bank, call the San Antonio Area Foundation, reach out to SAM Ministries, Catholic Charities. There's a ton of opportunities for you to help, and it's probably right next door. Even if you don't attend that church, call them and ask, hey, what do you need? It's that time of the year. Thanksgiving's coming up. A hot meal can change a life. A shower can change a life. And that's why we're here. We wanted to do it from Life Restored Church tonight. Be prepared. Next week we're going to do another one on the road. We're going to keep finding. Let us know, too. Put in the comments. Where do you want us to go? Where are those great hidden locations that nobody knows about, but people are doing the great work? And a train's coming by right now. But there it is. That's the end of the show. Perfect wrap up on cue. This is the BrockCast. We'll be back next Tuesday. As always, like it, share it. Let's get the facts out there, and let's do the things that San Antonio residents want. Every and each and one of us. Let's take care of business. Let's do the right thing. We will see you next week, 8 o'clock Tuesday. The BrockCast is out.